Welcome back to Mythic Codex Legends Unveiled, the place where mythology, folklore, and legends come alive. I'm your host Eliza, and tonight we'll uncover the stories that have captivated humanity for thousands of years. Turn the page, our journey begins now. There are stories about creatures that live in the dark forest. There are stories about creatures that hide in abandoned buildings. And then there are stories about something that doesn't need to chase you. All it has to do is wait. Tonight, we're heading to Scotland, to the cold river, lonely loches, and dark waters, where people once believed something was watching from beneath the surface. Something that could look completely harmless. Something that could look beautiful. Something that could look like a horse. Tonight's creature is known as the Kelpie. This creature is also known as the drowning horse, because once you know what this creature was believed to do, you might never look at a horse standing beside the water the same way again. The Kelpie comes from Scottish folklore and was described as a supernatural water spirit or water horse. It was said to haunt rivers, fords, and loches throughout Scotland. The creature usually appeared as a horse, often described as black, gray, or white. But there was always something wrong with it. Its mane was said to be dripping wet, not damp, not recently rained on, dripping, even when there was no rain. And sometimes the Kelpie wasn't a horse at all. Folklore describes it as a shapeshifter capable of taking human form. And that is where this legend becomes even more disturbing, because the Kelpie didn't always have to look frightening. Sometimes it looked inviting. The word Kelpie itself has an uncertain origin. Although it became established in Scottish usage for this kind of supernatural water being, historical Scottish historians describe the creature as a water demon that could appear as a horse and lure people toward drowning. And there's something important about these old stories. They weren't necessarily told to scare people. They also served as a warning. Water can look calm. Water can look beautiful. But underneath that surface can be deep, freezing, and deadly. So image living in a time before modern warning signs, lifeguards, swimming lessons, or emergency services. You see a beautiful horse standing beside a dangerous river. What would you do? Would you stay away? Or would you climb on? According to the legend, the Kelpie knew exactly how to get people close. It could appear as a beautiful horse waiting near the water. Sometimes it appeared completely tame, almost as if someone had simply left their horse behind. And if a person climbed onto its back, the trap has already been set. Some versions of the legend say that Kelpie's supernatural skin would cause a person to become stuck to it. The horse would then rush toward the water. The rider could struggle. They could scream. They could try to pull themselves free, but they couldn't escape. And then the Kelpie would plunge beneath the surface, the victim would drown. And in some versions of the story, the creature would eat them. That's where this legend stops feeling like an ordinary ghost story, because the Kelpie wasn't simply trying to scare people, it was hunting. So here's my question for you. Let me ask you something. You're walking beside a Scottish loch. It's getting dark. You hear water moving somewhere nearby. Then you see a beautiful horse standing completely alone. No rider, no saddle, no owner anywhere around. Would you get closer? Would you touch it? Or would you turn around and walk away? Because according to legend, walking away might be the smartest decision you can make. See, I would probably definitely walk away. Um, I've seen wild horses on riversides before. I live in Arizona, so it's a little normal. In Phoenix, we have the Salt River, which is very, very beautiful. Um, and there's wild horses there on the shoreline all the time, and sometimes they run straight through it. It's so beautiful. But I would never approach them because you never know what a wild horse would do. And honestly, you would never know what a tame horse would do. So staying away is always the best option. Look from afar. Don't try to touch. But that's just my answer. One of the darkest parts of Kelpie folklore involves children. In many versions of the legend, the creature would appear as a horse near the water and attract curious children. And honestly, that makes the story even more disturbing because children are naturally curious. They see a horse. They want to get closer. They want to touch it. They want to ride it. And that's exactly what the Kelpie wanted. The moment they climb onto it back, the creature could race towards the water. The child would be trapped, and the horse would disappear beneath the surface. These stories may have survived a very real purpose. They gave parents a terrifying way to warn children about dangerous water. Don't go near the river. Don't wander near a loach. And whatever you do, don't climb onto a strange horse. Because if the child didn't listen, the Kelpie was waiting. The horse that couldn't be controlled. But the Kelpie wasn't always described as a simple monster hiding in the water. There are stories of people actually trying to control one. One famous Scottish tale tells of a laird of Morphy who supposedly captured a Kelpie and used its supernatural strength to help build his castle. The creature was forced to carry heavy stones. The laird believed he had found a way to control something supernatural, but there was a problem. You can force a monster to work, but that doesn't mean you've deserved it or defeated it. According to the story, when the work was finished, the Kelpie was released, and it did not leave quietly. The creature cursed the laird. Legends later connected that curse with the downfall and extension of the Laird's family. And that gives us another side of the Kelpie legend. Maybe the creature wasn't just a predator, maybe it was also a warning. Don't assume you can control something you don't understand. Now let's talk about a darker version. Because some Kelpie stories don't end with someone simply disappearing beneath the water. Some traditions describe the victims being drowned and eaten. Other versions describe the Kelpie's supernatural skin as adhesive. Once someone touched it, they could supposedly become stuck. Image realizing that the creature you're sitting on isn't a horse at all. You try to jump off. You can't. You pull. Nothing. The creature runs towards the water. You know exactly what it's taking you. And then the water closes over your head. One record folklore account even tells of a victim becoming so firmly attached that escaping could require cutting away the body part that had become stuck to the creature. Think about how horrifying that image is. The legend doesn't give you a monster with claws running through the forest. It gives you a beautiful horse, a creature you willingly approach. And by the time you realize what you've touched, it's already too late. Here's something I found especially interesting. Not every old tradition presents the Kelpie as nothing but a killer. Some Scottish folklore also associates the creature with work. There are accounts of water spirits being connected with mills and labor. So maybe the Kelpie wasn't always viewed as a creature that simply wanted to kill. Maybe it represented something much more complicated. The danger of nature, the power of water, the consequences of disrespecting something you couldn't control. And maybe that's why the stories survived, because they weren't just about monsters, they were about fear. There's another disturbing detail. Some descriptions of the Kelpie say that even when it took human form, it could retain its horse's hooves. That strange detail helped connect the creature with Christianity idea about demons and the devil. Robert Barnes even referenced water kelps in his 1786 poem addressed to the devil. So, over time, the Kelpie became more than a creature from the water. It became something associated with temptation, something that could appear harmless, beautiful, even inviting. Before you real what is really was, and isn't that what makes monsters so frightening? Not when they look like monsters, but when they don't. So here's another question for you. Which would scare you more? A monster that looks terrifying from the moment you see it, or something beautiful that you don't realize is dangerous until it's too late? Because personally, I think the second one is much worse. It's taking something beautiful and all of a sudden realizing at the last moment it's not what you think it is horrifying. And the Kelpie wasn't the only water horse in Celtic and European folklore. Other descriptions have their own versions of supernatural horses associated with dangerous water. Scotland itself has stories involving creatures such as each usage. Another Scottish water horse traditional described as especially dangerous. The details change from place to place, but the basic warning remained remarkably familiar. Water can hide things. Don't trust everything you see beside it. And sometimes the thing waiting for you isn't beneath the water. It's standing right beside it. This is where the legend gets interesting, because maybe the Kelpie didn't need to exist for people to have very real reasons to fear it. Scottish loches and rivers can be cold, deep, and dangerous. A person could disappear beneath the surface and never be recovered. A child could wander too close. A traveler could fall into a river at night. And without modern explanation, people created stories to explain those tragedies. The Kelpie became a perfect explanation. If someone vanished near the water, maybe the Kelpie took them. If someone drowned, maybe the water horse was responsible. And if children wanted to play near the river, tell them there was a monster waiting there that might keep them alive. That might keep them alive. So image this. It's late. The sun is disappearing. The water is almost completely black. You're walking along a lonely road beside a Scottish loch. And then you hear it. Hooves, slowly approaching. You turn around. There's a horse. Black. Beautiful. Its mane hangs over its neck. Water drips from the hair. But there's no rain. The horse doesn't run away. It doesn't seem afraid of you. Instead, it lowers its head, almost inviting you closer. You reach out. Your hand touches its wet coat. And suddenly, you realize something is wrong. Your hand won't come away. You pull harder. Nothing. The horse raises its head. You hear the water behind you. Then it begins to move faster and faster, straight toward the loach. You scream. You try to let go. You can't. The creature reaches the edge, and with one final leap, you disappear beneath the black water. The surface becomes still. The horse is gone. And somewhere beneath the surface, the story says the Kelpie is waiting for its next rider. So here's my final question for you. If you were standing beside a Scottish loch and saw a completely unfamiliar horse standing alone near the water, would you risk getting closer? Would you trust it? Or would you remember the legend of the drowning horse and walk away? Because sometimes the most dangerous monsters aren't the ones that chase you. They're the ones that wait patiently for you to come to them. And that is the legend of the Kelpie. Kelpie, the drowning horse. Until next time, keep your eyes open, because you never know what might be hiding between the myth and fear.